I'll start by admitting that this isn't an easy story to tell. What I did was wrong, morally, socially, in every way imaginable. Yet, I feel no regret. You might call me selfish, cruel, or even vindictive, but until you've walked in my shoes, felt the sting of family expectations and societal judgment, you cannot truly understand. My younger sister's wedding was supposed to be a beautiful day. In many ways, it was, until it wasn't. As the firstborn daughter, my life came with expectations. By now, I should have been married, had kids, and settled into a successful family life. Instead, I had a career and financial independence, which meant little in a culture where a woman's worth is tied to her marital status. Tenny is so lucky, finding a man like Connor at such a young age, my mother often said. Her praise for my younger sister, Tenny, always felt like a backhanded comment directed at me. It wasn't that Tenny flaunted her achievements. If anything, she tried to shield me from the brunt of these comments. "Mama, please stop saying that," she'd say, glancing at me. But her words did little to soothe my bruised ego. For years, I buried these feelings, masking them behind a smile. But when Tenny announced her engagement, something shifted within me. Watching her plan her wedding, bask in the glow of Connor's adoration, and revel in the praise of family and friends became unbearable. I wanted to be happy for her. I tried to be. I even went as far as offering to fund her wedding, contributing a staggering 2 million naira. My generosity earned their gratitude, but no amount of appreciation could fill the void within me. It was during one of my moments of silent anguish that fate, or perhaps something darker, intervened. One evening, as I sat alone in a coffee shop, I overheard a conversation that caught my attention. "She acts like she's perfect," a man's voice said, dripping with bitterness. "But I know Tenny. I know what she's capable of." I turned to see a man, perhaps in his mid-30s, talking animatedly to a friend. His words struck a chord. Could this be the same Tenny, my flawless younger sister, he was talking about? Before I knew it, I approached him, feigning curiosity. "Excuse me," I said, I couldn't help overhearing. "Are you talking about Tenny Alabi?" He looked surprised but nodded. "Do you know her?" "I'm her sister," I replied, watching his face twist into an expression of disbelief and vindication. His name was Sola, and he revealed that he had once been in a relationship with Tenny, a relationship that ended messily. "She used me," he said bitterly. "Took what she wanted and tossed me aside." As he spoke, a plan began forming in my mind. It wasn't immediate or even clear, but the seed had been planted. Over the next few weeks, I reached out to Sola, carefully gaining his trust. He shared photos and messages that painted a picture of a relationship far more complicated than I'd ever imagined. There were photos of them together, some innocent, others, not so much. I didn't fabricate anything, I didn't need to. The truth was messy enough on its own. All I had to do was convince Sola to confront Tenny on her wedding day. It wasn't difficult, he was eager for revenge, and I provided the perfect stage for his grand reveal. The morning of Tenny's wedding was chaotic but joyous. Family members bustled about, guests arrived in droves, and Tenny looked every bit the radiant bride. I watched her from the sidelines, torn between admiration and resentment. As we made our way to the church, I couldn't help but marvel at the irony of it all. Here I was, the ever-reliable older sister, playing my role flawlessly while harboring a secret that would shatter her world. The ceremony began smoothly. The choir sang beautifully, the pastor spoke eloquently, and Tenny and Connor exchanged loving glances. For a moment, I doubted myself. Was I really going to ruin this day? But then came the moment of truth. Is there anyone here who has a reason why this union should not take place? The silence that followed was deafening. I held my breath, heart pounding, as Sola stood up from the back of the church. "The bride is carrying my child," he shouted, his voice echoing through the hall. Gasps rippled through the congregation. Heads turned, whispers erupted, and Tenny froze, her face a mask of shock and horror. "She's lying," Tenny cried, her voice trembling. "I don't know this man. I swear I don't." But Sola was prepared. He stepped forward, pulling out a small envelope and tossing its contents onto the altar. Photos scattered across the floor, each one more damning than the last. "I'll return for my unborn child," he said, glaring at Tenny before storming out. For a moment, no one moved. Then Connor collapsed, fainting onto the floor. Tenny fell to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably, while chaos erupted around her. The reception was cancelled, and guests left in stunned silence. My family was in disarray, trying to make sense of what had happened. Tenny refused to speak to anyone, locking herself in her room and crying for hours. I stayed by her side, offering hollow words of comfort. "It will be okay," I said, patting her back as she wept. But inside, I felt a sense of closure. For the first time in years, I wasn't in her shadow. I wasn't the overlooked, single older sister. I was the one who held the power, even if only for a fleeting moment. Now, as I sit alone reflecting on the events of that day, I feel a mix of emotions. I know what I did was wrong. I destroyed my sister's wedding, hurt my family, and caused immeasurable pain. But I also feel free. Not everyone will understand this. They'll judge me, call me jealous or cruel. Maybe they're right. But unless you've lived a lifetime of being dismissed, overlooked, and ridiculed, you can't truly understand why I did what I did. I sabotaged my sister's wedding. I'm not proud of it, but I believe it was necessary. And I have no regrets.